Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today we have the Spyderco YoJumbo. I've been really looking forward to getting my hands on one of these. Thank you very much to White Mountain Knives, by the way, for getting me one pretty quick. Use the code SDWMK at checkout, and you get 10% off over at whitemountainKnives.com. So go check that out. But yeah, I was really looking forward to getting this. I think partly because I just never got a YoJumbo, and everybody kept telling me I should. I still don't have one. But I've gotten to know Michael Janich pretty well. He is a regular contributor over at Knives Illustrated magazine. This guy who I see in the mirror every morning, or at least one who looks just like him, is the editor of. So yeah, I've kind of known him a little bit through there, and it's made me more excited to get my hands on it. I've enjoyed reading his self-defense articles. He's a self-defense expert, and that is what this knife is geared to, as was the YoJumbo. As the name would indicate, the YoJumbo is basically just a larger version of that. It's the same in a lot of ways. The usual S30V steel, made in Golden, Colorado, compression lock, four-way adjustable pocket clip. To my understanding, the G10 is a bit more aggressive. I don't think it's quite to the level of like a Cold Steel Recon 1. I do have one of those here, so we will compare shortly. But I don't think it's quite to that level of aggression, but it is pretty aggressive. It's not quite a pocket destroyer, but it's definitely going in and out. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, that same kind of hollow grind blade, same blade shape. You were looking at 0.15 inch blade thickness. So yeah, pretty thick blade. But it does come down to quite a dainty tip. I'm spoiling the review. Let's get going. We have some stats here for you. We have, and we'll do some size comparisons. Overall length of 9.26 inches, blade length of 4 inches. You have a blade thickness, as I said, of 0.15 inches, handle thickness of 0.45 inches, and a weight of 5.1 ounces. So it's not a tank, but it's not light either. Size comparisons, we're going to do some stuff just a little bit different. We'll bring out two of our usuals, but not all four of them, because this is a knife that's pretty silly to compare to 3-inch knives, because obviously it's a 4-inch blade. It's pretty big. We all know that. But this is Spyderco Paramilitary 2. And the full-size Benchmade Griptilian. And now some knives that it compares to even more, I think. Even though still, I think it's going to be bigger than most of these, but still. We have, this is the ZT0562 tie. Hasn't been on the channel in a while. You could also say it's a Hinder XM18. They're about exactly the same size. And we'll bring out a couple of cold steels. The 8010, and the aforementioned Recon 1, which is probably going to be the closest in size here. You can see it's just a hair shorter than a Recon 1. My mat does not want to stay in place for this video, but you're only getting one take today. That's about all I got in me today. So there we go with that. And then lastly, a couple other Spydercos. One that I think is going to be very interesting and a guaranteed will happen battle to the death. So we have the Spyderco Shaman, and the one that I have to do a comparison video for, I think, because it's kind of funny these both came out the same year. This is the Spyderco Canis. Much smaller knife, but it still has that same kind of Wharncliffe-y blade, and I just think it's a very comparable knife. Maybe I should get a regular YoJumbo and do it instead. But anyway, I think it's just kind of interesting that they both did these kind of Wharncliffe-y, self-defense oriented knives. Came out in the same year. Okay, now let's talk about this knife. This blade, well, it's big, for sure. As I said, pretty thick blade stock, not crazy thick. 0.15 is nuts. I mean, most Hinders are 0.16. And it's got the usual thickness behind the edge for Spyderco, about 19 thousandths. And it is a very nice hollow grind, a pretty aggressive hollow grind. It does come to a very dainty tip for a knife like this. I know that the YoJumbo, the only complaints people have had about them is snapping the tips off. I know at least 3 guys personally that have done that. I don't think this is going to be dramatically better, maybe a little bit. This is more like a PM2 kind of tip, I would say, as far as the daintiness goes. Let's whip out the PM2 for that. This happens to be the S45VN version 1, but it's still going to be about the same. Yeah, maybe just a hair thinner than a PM2, but really pretty close to the same as far as, you know, the area that you're worried about snapping it off. So, yeah, about the same as that. Maybe a little more dainty than a PM2. But it is a pretty good slicer, I will say. And I like Warncliffe's. I always have for kind of utility sort of things. This is a big one for sure. But it slices pretty well. I was kind of hoping it would be a bit thinner behind the edge just to make up for that blade thickness. But I guess that would make the tip even more spindly. So I guess I kind of get that grind. But I was kind of hoping, you know, for something in that 14, 15 thousandth range. But Spyderco never does that. So I should not have been surprised. Ergonomics are superb, no matter how you hold it. At least for my hands, I have large size gloves, skinny fingers, but of course it works well in a reverse grip because it is designed for tactical use, and Michael Janich knows what he's doing, so it works very well in that reverse grip as well. Obviously, with this grippy G10, it ain't going nowhere. No hot spots from the pocket clip, at least. I've only been carrying it right hand tip up. That's the only way that I've carried it, but works pretty well. Not too bad. As far as how it carries, Yale Levi's are MIA at the moment. I don't know where they are, so I can't really show them on that. But I haven't been in this office in a few days, and I don't know where they got put to. Like I said, the G10 isn't too bad. It's not as much of a pocket destroyer as the Cold Steel G10 is. Like they have different grades of G10, but on their more aggressive knives, like on the Recon one, on the really more tactically sorted knives, it's pretty aggressive. But I don't know if you can see it through here. You might be able to because I did a poor job on this one, but pretty easy to fix. All I did was tape off around the contact patch, remove the pocket clip, and then sand it down. Previously, I've always sanded them by hand. I'd recommend you do that because I did this on a Dremel and even on a low setting. It burned right through that tape in half a second, and you know it took off a little bit more than I wanted, but I guess it doesn't look that bad. When you take it off, you can see that it's a bit more than I wanted to do. But it does make it much, 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 much easier to get out of the pocket. I will probably do the same with this, but I think I could get away without it, especially if you're wearing like tactical jeans with reinforced pockets or any, you know, carpenter jeans where they have reinforced pockets designed for that. It'll be fine. It's not a total pocket destroyer, but yeah, it definitely has a you know noise when it goes in and out of the pocket. It is pretty tall in the pocket for sure, but it's not really as much of a pocket dominator as I expected it to be. But once you, like up here, you know, it's all fine. And once you get down here, though, it does take up a lot of room. Absolutely, for sure. So as far as the action goes, I've done absolutely nothing to this. And it's awesome. Compression lock, usual coolness. It's very smooth out of the box. I will say it does have one flaw that several Spydercos have lately in the compression lock. When you close it, part of it does come in here, but it's not as bad as like on the Shaman, but it does come into where your finger wants to be. So if you put your whole finger in there, it stops about there and you got to do another little move. I usually just use my fingernail and then it bounces off the stops, but it does go down all the way. It's gonna be insolent now and bounce off the stops, but it does close all the way. Again, I've done absolutely nothing to this, so this is kind of your typical compression lock action. So I have to say, overall, for the price of $164.50, don't think I mentioned that before. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's not bad. It is a very cool knife for what it is supposed to be. I think it's more than a novelty, but I think probably the YoJumbo is probably going to be the better choice for a lot of people. But if you just like a really, really big old knife, yeah, this is pretty cool. I'm a fan. I'm going to keep it around for a little while. Like I said, I have a few more videos planned for it, so you'll be seeing this again, and I'll be able to give you more of an impression. I have only had this for 3 days. I've been a bit sick. We'll talk about that later. So it's mostly just been fiddled with in my bed and opened other boxes and stuff like that. But I'm doing a little better, by the way. Obviously, I'm making a video. So really cool knife, and glad they're making it, and glad to know Michael Janich a bit more. So I've been Brian. Have a good one.